Here's an entryway of the new added on addition. Puppy damage. I gotta get that fixed again. I repaired it somewhat. I didn't have the material at the time to do it correctly. I do now, so I'll get to that. Never made the panels for this, so I just had a one ply stapled on, and as you can see, our wind gets tremendous out here. So all this will get repaired. There's the sheet that was on there, and I'll make this. This was my own concept here. I'll put that in a video coming up. I make a double ply, what do you call it, double insulated panels. Double insulated panels all the way throughout here, except for this side wasn't finished. This is some used material. I reused it. I'll get to that. This is a really nice material. It's like a 12-year, which in my experience probably means about 15 to 20 year lifespan, because this stuff was rated at 4 years, and I've had some in the front yard for 6 years, and it's still holding up fine, or at least 5 to, yeah, I think it's 6 years now. So great stuff, holds up great. This will probably hold up for the rest of my life. Well, you know, I don't know. If I get robot body, I might be all right. Let's go around here, look at the front door from the outside. I made the door myself. Pretty simple. Yeah, so originally there was 2 of these large pots here. I removed the one over here. I'm not sure if I'm going to remove that. I know I'm not going to remove it. I'll probably use it for this next season. And I'm thinking I got an idea for this winter also. And I had a catwalk in the middle. That was interesting. I had to build scaffolding to put these panels up on top. I think I have some. You got here, a little dragonfly. See if we can't get the dragonfly. Hey, buddy. Look, he's looking right at us. He had enough. This is the interior. My favorite greenhouse here. So it's a little in disarray. I'm going to do all the repairs before next spring. Nothing was grown in here this year. She's a beauty. It started out as an 8 by 12, this section here, and that was the front door. My concept was to keep the door above ground level so it wouldn't flood, but that's really not a big issue. So later I expanded and added this section here, another 6 foot by 12 foot. All the beams are concreted in. I may dig down in here again a little lower, I'm not sure yet, or concrete this floor. But everything's going to get finished out and rebuilt. I removed the fans from this cooler here. I'll put them back in. Everything's run directly off the solar panels. So a couple fans went out here. This was, okay, these fans were wired parallel originally to run off of, directly off of 12 volt solar panels, which are actually 19 volts when you run them direct. But now I've got them running off of 24 volt, which is 38 volt panels. So I had to run them in series, or let me say I had to run 2 in series parallel. So one fan was removed. Let me turn them on and show you what I'm getting at. 2 of those are not working. I'm not sure why. I'll get to that. I'll figure that out. All these are working correctly. That one's not wired in because I had to change the wiring. So some of the goofy things I do, but it works fine. That's just I don't have that one fan wired in. This one's got 2 fans out. I'll get to the bottom of that. Those fans were removed. And it's a beautiful greenhouse. It works fantastic. Yeah, I'll put me a table and a chair in here. Originally, I wired this for 4 swamp coolers, evaporative coolers, to run directly off the solar panels. But I never did get the other 2 wired in on the north side. So that's what these 2 openings were for here. I actually did have a cooler in here, but never wired it up. And never put one in here. Although I made all 4, but I ended up putting them up. These 2 over here were fairly adequate, actually. And then I added that high-powered one, which was kind of a hybrid. This one here, that I modified from a standard factory-built cooler. And I put a 12-volt system into it with computer fans, high-powered fans. I'll show those fans. I had them in a previous video, I think. These fans are for the hybrid swamp cooler inside the greenhouse I was showing. Well, who's that guy? Yep. Unfortunately, I didn't grow anything in this. Yeah, there was some issues with the property and I wasn't sure what was going to happen, so I just wasn't up to it. But next year, we got a whole new ball game. This was my first design. I'm not sure how long it's been now. I guess it's about 8-10 years ago probably. And it worked fine. It was just basically a concept to see. I had no idea if it would even work, but it worked great. So I was off on a mission after that. After that, I built this one. Now this thing's been great. This has been running for, it has to be 7 years. I can't remember now, but I've grown a fair amount of stuff in here, all kinds of different things. It's not that big, but it works fine. It's a 12-volt system, which actually it runs 19 volts. I have a 2-fan swamp cooler on each side. The cooler's missing over there, but there's the fans. Not sure if I'll use this next season or not. Took these panels out because the wind was blowing so hard it was going to blow it over, so I had to give it some relief. I do have it staked down here with one. It needs more because it was about to go. This was an experiment, and it did work. I didn't have quite the power to run the idea we had come up with. I came up with the idea basically. It had a little help on it, but it's an interesting design. There's a thermometer here. You see, there's a switch here to turn it on and off. Plug it in with the standard power there, and then underneath, they're still in there. Yep, there's 2 bulbs. The concept was to heat it at night, which it does work. I just don't have the power to run it off the solar that well. So I shut it down, and I still grew in it though. You can grow in it fine. I'll put this all back together too and just do seeds or whatever. So there's one. This is another design, which is a fairly nice little design. I had it about 80% finished at one time. Thing was, the money was always short. I'm retired now, so if I decide to, I can get all these things back up correctly. The door was on, I took it off, and the plastic was on, so I grew quite a bit of stuff in here. But I ran short on plastic, took the plastic off and put it on another greenhouse. My brother and I must have built 100 of these at least, the various sizes, probably 30 or 40 of this size. And these stands, I built all these stands, must have built 15 of those. That was my first gardening over in Pahrump, and another home I was paying a mortgage on. Just couldn't finish the mortgage. 2008 crash. So I moved out here. I call this my hybrid design. The shade cloth just flops over the door. It was fairly basic. Now, I call it a hybrid design because there's no cooler. So this cools it down and lets the air in. This the 50% blockage shade cloth. And then here, I had plastic. I only had a one layer, and it started flopping in the wind. I tore it off, I think about 6 months ago, actually. I'll probably reuse this next spring. Grew a lot of stuff in here: tomatoes, peppers, let me see, beets, all kinds of different things. It's a great little greenhouse. So there's this one. Now this is my jewel of the Nile here. This baby is a great, you know, it was given to me by a super nice gentleman from Pahrump. And he actually wanted to go into business growing pine trees. And he was retiring. So I started a pine tree concept, and so that's another long story. But anyway, I put the whole thing together myself. This is where I basically started learning how to weld, if you want to call it my welding. She's holding together fine. It had some damage prior, so I added these gussets. In Pahrump, he had a heavy snowfall, and it had busted it in various places. So I got a crew together. We went over and tore it all down, brought it all out here. I leveled the ground up best I could by myself, and put this whole thing up all by myself. And this thing is fantastic. I've got a bunch of photos. I'll show what I've grown in here prior. It grows fairly well. It's a 50% shade blockage. So some things don't grow too good, but I had real good luck with eggplant, tomatoes, peppers, all kinds of different things. Onions. All grew fine.